Hey, I'm feeling particularly unbuffered today. It's a pretty unbuffered day sitting here, the first business day after the IPO of SpaceX, sitting here on Monday. I'm Chris Mitchell at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. This is an episode of Unbuffered, and I'm talking today with my colleagues here at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Sean Gonsalves, welcome.
That's right. Warren Buffett, savvy investor advisor that nobody knows about.
That's where you came to us from.
Yeah.
And
if anybody
Jordan
believes that, they should spend all of their life savings buying stock in SpaceX.
And we also got Jordan Pittman. Jordan, welcome to the show.
I know, usually behind the scenes, but in the forefront now, just like the Knicks. Shout out the Knicks. They I had to shout them out, man. It feels like a down world. I woke up and I was like, yeah, man, they actually won. Wow. So
we are not financial professionals, and we also welcome the Knicks victory with, a little bit of a heavy heart for our friends in San Antonio who do wonderful work, and we'll be back undoubtedly for a championship ring sometime soon. But today we're going to be talking a bit about Elon Musk. We're splitting this show into two parts, and the first part is going to be about Elon Musk, SpaceX, and that sort of thing, because there's some stuff going on that I can't let it slide. It's driving me crazy. And the second part of the show is an interview with Jeff Gavlinski, who does a wonderful event called Mountain Connect that Sean and I have gone to. I've been to it a lot of times. It's in Colorado in August, and we're going to talk about that and why it's not your average event and a bit about the industry. So stay tuned for that. But before we get there, I had to talk a little bit more about this thing because there's a few things, and we got something we're going to try out. We're actually going to be responding to some clips that we pulled because I can't wrap my head around what is going on, except for to ask this. And I already know the answer because I checked in with you guys ahead of time. But Sean and Jordan, have either one of you heard the term Muppets or rip their face off in terms of Wall Street?
No, when I hear about the Muppets, I think about the Muppet Show that I grew up on.
Right. Mm-hmm. Same here. Yeah. I have no recollection. No.
So in 2012, emails came out. I think it was around then. It was after the Wall Street had destroyed the entire U.S. economy and took homes away from millions of American families by having swindled them out of them with the law, and the law not bothering to help out people who had been totally screwed over. Goldman Sachs emails came out in which they repeatedly referred to clients that were unsophisticated as Muppets and bragged about ripping their face off because these were sophisticated people who were taking advantage of other unsophisticated investors. And so that comes to mind right now with SpaceX, which to me, in talking with Karl last week, we talked about this. It's a bomb. And I don't remember, we recorded a show. I don't know that it was for TikTok being cut up. I don't know if that part made it in. I don't remember. It's a bomb. It's a time bomb in particular. And Jordan's saying, yeah, I think that part was in there.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite parts. It's you didn't say it was a bomb. You said you thought it was an atomic bomb. I want to really specify that. So
yeah, I said, I feel like this filing could very well be the part of a major downfall of the economy, the market led and kind of 1929 kind of territory. But none of us are traders. None of us are financial experts. This is not advice. This is more of us trying to explain what we know about Starlink, what we know about SpaceX, and why we just think it's a crazy world out there that whenever we see this coverage of SpaceX. At least that's how I think of it, Sean. How do you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know how many companies are wrapped up in SpaceX these days. I mean, there's Starlink, there's, the rocket company, there's Tesla, all this other stuff. And I think
Tesla's not. It's just
Tesla's not point. Okay.
No, Tesla's actually not a part of that yet, but there is a talk about bringing it together. But it is the Grok AI. It's X. It's it's like you said, SpaceX. Starlink is a part of that. I don't know what else is in there, but those are the big ones.
Well, it feels to me what Elon Musk is the only genius he might be a genius at. The only thing that he may be a genius at is convincing people of a bunch of bullshit. So it just feels to me like this is a way for him to be a trillionaire on paper and to generate something like $75 billion in cash. And it's this is a way to I don't know, a shell game to move money around in these companies and keep making these promises. So to me, where's the Hyperloop? Where's a nation full of self-driving cars? Where's the mission to Mars? It all just, it's like he's great at selling this dream of the future. And again, not being an investor and not having, studied this carefully, it just smells funky to me from a distance. And, just as a regular person with a 401k, I'm super concerned about whether or not, that's going to be rated to help fund this monstrosity.
Right, because the index funds being required to buy in under the rules under the NASDAQ and potentially some other exchanges. Jordan, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, Sean, you said as a person doesn't invest. Well, because of those rule changes, you are an investor, whether you like it or not. So it's actually even more critical that average person's asking themselves, well, you're telling me this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're forcing me to invest in this, even though I didn't have no stake in it. I don't know. I would like for it to go well, but based off everything we've been talking about to this point, the only thing Elon's really good at is that marketing, man. Like, he's really good at somehow convincing these, investors, board directors, members, whatever the case may be, that what his vision is for the future is great, which on paper sounds great. Like going to Mars, the 8-year-old in me is like, I love that. How are we going to do that? Because mind you, SpaceX, most of the funding, if I'm not mistaken, is coming from our tax dollars anyway. So where's my dividends from all this, actually?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a bit about that. I mean, I feel like, so Musk gave a historic amount of money to the president and then has himself made a historic amount of money in a way that seems totally shady, having changed a bunch of the rules to benefit in the ways that I don't know that Trump necessarily did it for him, President Trump, but it's gross to see this sort of a thing. And I do feel like there's a lot of Muppets who are being taken for a ride. And there's a lot of young people who are going to put their money into this. And I feel like, that's on them. They're making decisions. We treat people like adults. They make those decisions. But like, I think it's a gross situation. But we got a couple of clips to respond to. We got to keep this tight. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just wanted to say that of the various businesses that are rolled up into this, I think Starlink is the only one that actually generates any real revenue, right? I mean,
that's
so
right.
I just don't understand how it could be valued so high, and and it's a bunch of businesses that don't really make any money.
So this is something that we're going to talk more about after one of the clips in terms of what people think. But the way it's structured the idea is that the data center and AI business is going to be pulling in an ungodly amount of money. It's going to be pulling in so much money that even though Starlink will be pulling in something like 75-80% of all the money on the entire planet spent on telecommunications, that will be a small sliver of the money pulled in by this AI thing, which, by the way, Elon just purchased as a part of his empire within SpaceX, right? Because like he controls it, he calls the shots. There's a board of directors, but they're a rubber stamp, and he's going to continue to control like 85% of this company, the decisions that are made. There is no one else checking him, and he just paid a lot of money for him to bring his own other company, Grok AI, into the portfolio. While he was saying it was built incorrectly the first time around, that there was not a lot of value there. He overpaid for himself, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about Tesla. What's Tesla's number one sale right now? It's the Cybertrucks to himself. Other divisions, right? SpaceX is buying Cybertruck after Cybertruck.
Right.
And so like this is like one of those things, like it's gross. And it's not the only time this has happened, but this is a new scale of like how wealthy people figure out how to fool people and the retail investors and take their money with a media that is incapable of covering what's actually going on out there. And so that's why I want to talk about it. Like this is in our wheelhouse, even though it's not. So let's play the first clip because we wanted to respond to Jason Calacanis, who was on an episode of the Bulwark Show with Tim Miller. And he said this thing, which is, it's like, it's the word of God. Everyone believes this, right?
What's the case for the Elon route of the Elon NASDAQ?
Case one is never bet against Elon because he manifests things.
You've done pretty well betting against him on the process of cutting government funding through the Doge process because he totally failed at that. So,
Let's pause there. Yeah. So like, this is the thing, right? People are like, and Travis has said this to me on numerous occasions. You can't bet against Elon. What are you talking about? Like, I'll tell you this. When he challenged Mark Zuckerberg to a cage fight, I should have put money on Mark Zuckerberg. One of the few times I would have done that, like, and what happened? Elon backed out. Elon, a guy who lies about everything all the time, a guy who accomplished a David Blaine level magic trick in taking Twitter and making it worse, right? Like, I actually kind of liked it, but like, it is way worse now, no matter how you want to measure it, like engagement, money, ads, like whatever you want to call it. Like, Twitter is way worse off now. Tesla. What has he done to Tesla? Tesla's sales are shrinking across the board. They can't even compete with BYD, but it doesn't matter because no one wants to buy it because the man who runs it keeps throwing up Sig Heils and talking about things and supporting Nazi parties around the world. The guy has like totally destroyed Tesla, which is a company that like a lot of people were pretty excited about. He literally went after his user base and pissed them off, like, for no reason. Just what exactly? Why would you bet on this man? Like, this man who told us we would have full self-driving like 10 years ago, and then 6 months ago told us, oh, but now it's really coming, and I'm going to have half of all Americans are going to be able to be able to like hail a ride by the end of 2025, right? And now here we sit halfway through 2026. It's in 3 cities in Texas. He's got 59 vehicles according to all the reports, and they are worse than the average driver. I'm a huge supporter of AI driving because Americans, human beings, are bad drivers. I've driven, I don't know, like 7, 8 different countries on 3 continents. People are bad drivers. He's made a worse system. Like, there's like, what? Like, the guy brought screwworm back to Texas. The guy said he was going to cut $2 trillion out of the U.S. budget, which is insane because that's more than the U.S. budget, basically. And then he cut it back to $150 billion. And then it turned out they were lying about all of that. He actually ended up costing more money. And on top of that, people are still like, don't bet against him. Do you remember the Wisconsin Supreme Court race where he decided to get in on it? This guy lives, like, I swear, like, I don't know, like, if he's like surrounded by monkeys for all the banana peels he's slipping on the regular, but like, the guy screws up everything that he touches.
Well,
somehow he's anointed as being a genius.
Yeah, well, if by not betting against him means don't bet against the, I don't remember if it was P.T. Barnum or somebody, but one of those people made a comment about how lucrative it is to bet on the public to buy into a bunch of nonsense. And so if by not betting against Elon, that's what that dude meant, then maybe. But like you said, I feel like everything the dude says is a lie or this ridiculous exaggeration. And it's built on this carefully crafted PR manicured image that he's some genius, like he's literally building rockets in his basement. And I don't see any evidence of him being a genius at anything other than convincing people that this is going to be the future. So when we talk about, let's just talk about telecom, for example, 75 to 80% of the entire telecom industry is essentially what, getting internet from Starlink.
You know who says that? You know what people, so, I mean, yeah, that's the claim, but like, this is literally the caliber of the people, like the Jason Calacanis. They're like, oh man, I was on this flight and the SpaceX, we used Starlink and it was amazing. The whole world's going to be using this. And I'm like, that's quite a leap from this plane internet is better than the old plane internet to like the whole world is going to use this. And I, a person who is barely able to use the internet, am going to claim that I know what the whole world's going to be using in the future. It's lunacy.
It's lunacy. To say nothing of the fact that they don't exactly have a great track record in launching rockets that don't explode. I mean, there's still a lot more satellites that would need to be deployed.
Yeah, but let's be clear. Falcon 9, wonderful. Gwen Shotwell, the SpaceX team have really done a good job. And I will say, I think Elon Musk, he is obsessive about some things, and he demanded that his big idea was that the rockets would be reusable, right? And he pushed for that hard, and that is like, it's really important. I don't want to take it away from him. Like, he gets that. Other people have designed it. Now, he's pushed ahead with the Starship, which is a much larger launch vehicle that pushes up against the limits of what any engineer has ever been able to accomplish, or any team of engineers. And so far, it's not doing great. It has gone up a couple of times without blowing up. The Starship is needed to be able to go to Mars, to be able to do a bunch of other stuff. The Falcon 9 is wonderful, but we can't do a lot of new things with it. And so, like, just for people that are trying to keep track of that, and not only that, but on SpaceX, 70% of SpaceX SpaceX's business is Starlink, which brings me back to a comment that Matt Larson shared with us, who's been in this business for 30 years running an ISP. Matt Larson running VistaBeam, have a lot of respect for him. And he had basically said, if you want to build a rocket company, you want to be able to justify a ton of launches, you want to put up a whole bunch of satellites, this is a good way to get investors to pay you to do that. That's what Starlink has been. Starlink has been really successful in that metric. But like, it's got, 11 million users now? And its ARPU is down to 66 after being at 98, 99 2 years ago. Like, the state of Maine had a program in which it was like, come get your free Starlink. And they had enough for like a few hundred people in the specific regions where they don't have any other access. And they couldn't give them away. I think they gave away like 5%. Like, no one actually said it officially, right? So, like, there's all kinds of insanity going on with this. Now, Karl just jumped in, so I want to make sure. Karl Bodie is here now.
Elon's biggest fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Now, you guys know it. I'm sorry I'm late. I got into serious life issues, but I am here now. Yeah,
Well, so you're serious life issues, but you're joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's talk about something important.
I appreciate your patience. Yeah, they have like 10 million subscribers, right? And I was watching that Jason Calacanis video he sent to me where they're predicting that it's going to be like 300 to 500 million subscribers. And to do that, they have to they're already seeing, as you mentioned, reduced subscriber revenue because they're having to lower price to even function and get people to sign up. But to get to those huge numbers, which would be like Netflix-grade content, you would have to really start competing with entrenched monopoly providers, right? So that means lower prices. That means more congestion on your network. That means introducing a whole bunch of restrictions on the network, like throttling of 4K video and weird network management stuff that's going to degrade the quality. And this is a company that has never had functional customer service. Right. So as those problems escalate, you're going to just run into issues where people are very unhappy. So this is all lined up to be a hot mess.
Yeah, we have that clip. Jordan, you wanna throw that clip up?
Yeah. As I throw that clip up, I just want to say like one point to your thing about betting against Elon. I don't like that statement because kind of similar to how Spider-Man is like the face of New York when you think of New York. I think Elon is the face of late stage capitalism. I think we don't bet against Elon. We don't bet against a system that won't allow itself to fail because they actually don't even believe in capitalism. The people who say they actually believe in it the most, if they actually genuinely believe in this free market system, if it didn't work, it would collapse. But here we are, we have given a man premise of all these millions, trillions of dollars for what? Just on a hopes that some of this stuff works out. Now imagine me, old Jordan Pittman, go into a bank or go to Wall Street and be like, hey, my name is Jordan Pittman. I want to go to the moon by 2040. These are my ideas and but I ain't got no proof. Do you know what they're going to do to me? That boardroom would laugh at me. They'll kick me out immediately. But oh no, because I don't know, Elon has aura. I don't know what the case is. It's almost like it's a constant reminder to a very real issue that everybody's feeling is like, for individual people, I am struggling day to day to make ends meet. Meanwhile, people at the top can just buddy with each other and make sure everybody has the funds and stuff they need to be whatever they want to be at the top 1%. And that frustration is real. Everybody can feel that across the political aisle. It's just frustrating that these people at the 1% continue to be like, oh, yeah, we're not the issue. Just give us more money and we'll solve all these problems. And it's just like, I don't know. It's super frustrating. So
no, and I want to bring it back before we do the clip because Karl missed the part where I was talking about. Karl, do you remember the term Muppets from Goldman Sachs?
Yeah. A little bit, yeah.
The financial engineering. I just want to hit this over and over again to be clear. Like, this is not like your garden variety IPO. IPOs have a bunch of rules in order to protect unsavvy investors like me. Although I'm not involved in this one, but like I'm a stereotypical kind of person. Like I shop around for index funds. I may occasionally buy a little bit of Ford stock when I love the Lightning, even though I'm kind of alone on that. Also, just note the Ford Lightning, considered to be a total bomb, outsold the Elon Musk's truck, the Cybertruck. So keep that in mind when people talk about what a genius he is. This is designed so that when it hits the indexes have to buy a small number of shares that are made available. Usually, if you're going to require the index funds to buy all these shares, there has to be a large number available so you don't have a massive swing in the price. This is designed so the people that are already in, Elon Musk, his friends, the people that have loaned him money, all going to hit their payday right when Sean, me, Jordan, I don't know, Karl, if you have a 401k or a Roth IRA or any of that stuff, but like as soon as that stuff hits, all these other, it's going to drive the price up and those institutional people are going to cash out. And then we're going to be stuck having to have this position. And it is just infuriating that they've totally changed the rules. The system was set up so you didn't have these kinds of dumb swings.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think when the shit hits the fan, I think everybody's going to stand around with a dumb look on their face, like that Spider-Man meme, pointing at each other, wondering how we got here. That's exactly what's going to be happening. Like, we didn't. How could we have known? It's only clearly obvious math. How would we have known this is go back? And the IPO gives him an 80 to 85%, pretty much unmitigatable control of the whole company. So as he kind of unhinges and untethers and gets weirder, which is, I think, inevitable because based on what we've seen so far, it's just going to get worse. And we've affixed that to the entire U.S. economy, and you can't tell me that's not going to end badly for people.
Yeah, so let's end up here talking about the addressable market. But Jordan, go ahead and hit that. Karl's already responded to a part of it. Let's finish it off.
Let's put that aside. Your question is about SpaceX.
Yeah, the NASDAQ.
There's an incredible business in Starlink. Starlink has over 10 million people subscribing. That will wind up being the largest subscription business in the history of humanity. Probably
the history of humanity.
What you see from Netflix.
More than Netflix.
Because they're going to go directly to your phone eventually. If you've seen the Starlink Mini, if you've seen the progress they're putting it on boats, most people are putting it on their houses who can afford to as a backup.
Most people are putting it on as a backup.
Like
who hasn't
really from home? You might have Starlink as your backup. I assume you do.
I don't, but
because first of all, what's crazy about this to me is, what it reminds me of is that it just became clear to me that almost everybody that talks about Starlink out in the world knows nothing about Starlink.
No, it's magic from the universe.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly right. Like Rogan had somebody on, Musk on there to talk about Starlink, and they really see it as like a magic pixie dust. They think you just sprinkle it everywhere. There's no limits. They don't really care about the technical specifics of it, despite being self-proclaimed engineers. They don't care how it works. They don't care if it works. They're there to accumulate money in any way possible.
We complain about the telephone and cable companies. To be clear, their service is better and cheaper than
Starlink, and their customer service exists, and their customer service is
better customer service, like Comcast, and Charter Spectrum and AT&T beat them on customer service.
Yeah, and that's hard to do, man, because those are like some of the lowest ranked companies on customer service in the whole country. In a country with airlines and banks and insurance companies. But
hundreds of millions of people are going to be taking this, and they better soon, right? Because they can't wait 5 or 10 years. Like, this has to happen like tomorrow to justify the value of this IPO.
Yeah, I mean, it like just something as basic as, and this is a oversimplified analogy, but if you've got a highway that's pretty traffic jammed, and somebody comes along and says, "Hey, I have a plan to add 10 billion new cars to the highway," everybody immediately is going to be like, there's not enough space. There's not enough capacity. How are cars supposed to move at all? It's just going to be a parking lot. That idea just doesn't even enter into people's thinking when it comes to Starlink and the capacity constraints that it currently has. Now, you can say, oh, well, they're going to launch, a million more satellites and all that, and it'll take care of all these issues. Really?
But here's the thing. Here's how it could work, right? Because one of the things I'll say is that I don't have certainty on any of this stuff. Like, I feel more certain about this than most things. But in my life, I try to be. If you have certainty on things, you got blind spots, and I try to avoid those. I've seen a lot of stories about whether or not Starlink, SpaceX should buy T-Mobile. That would solve a lot of their problems. They suddenly have customer service. They've got better marketing. They've got all this stuff. I mean, like, I'm not saying that I know all the repercussions of that. Karl, I don't know if you've thought about that at all, but like, wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it kind of makes sense in a lot of ways for what all these folks are looking for in terms of control and everything else. Consolidation, yeah.
Consolidation is the name of the game, right? That's just going to keep going. Media companies are going to fuse with telecom company. We don't really have antitrust reform anymore. We don't really have regulators that function very well. So I think that's going to be the name of the game: consolidation. Just kicking the can, kicking debt down the road, like they've done with the Paramount and Warner Brothers merger. It's just endlessly kicking obligations and accountability down the road, and eventually it all comes due. Eventually.
So, Karl, I want you to explain this. Jordan, tell us your impression of what people think about Elon. They think he's like pretty sharp, he's a smart guy, successful. Like, I feel like you're the person that we turn to know, like, what are the people thinking?
Well, my generation thinks he's a buffoon, but like, I guess that just
really. Yeah. You think that for real?
Well, see, this gets complicated, right? Because it depends on who you're talking to. Like, I think, and this, not to get political, but it usually goes along party lines, even around my age. Is like people who lean a little more left. They're like, oh, he's just a magician. He's not really smart. He doesn't really do any of this stuff. But I've talked to some of my like more moderate colleagues and friends, and they're just like, nah, man, like he's a little weird and unconventional, but he got it, man. And there's still a lot of people. I mean, I can scroll on TikTok right now and tell you there's a lot of people that still believe in him. And if you pressure them to ask them, why is that the case? Most of them would genuinely just be like, it's just a gut feeling. He just feels right.
Where does that gut feeling come from, Karl? Because I'll tell you this, the media does cover all of his stupidity. They cover the fact that he's supporting Nazis, right? They cover the fact that his Tesla sales have tanked. They cover the fact that the Tesla truck is ugly as sin. Like, I don't know. Like, what?
Our press is terrible. He's been mythologized for 15 to 20 years, right, as this super genius engineer. But if you look at the stuff he doesn't have an engineering degree. And if you look at the stuff he's actually built, it's like part of a car door. He's opportunistically really good at cozying up to actual innovators and then taking credit for all their work, taking singular credit. And then the press just parrots him. And it's been a 20-year construct. If you remember, he was like in Iron Man 2 as a super genius. There are references to him in the old Star Trek Generations movie where he's like, oh, he's alongside the greats of history. But as time has gone by and you actually, especially if he talks about things you understand really well, like you may not notice it if he's talking about things you don't really have a dabble in, but when he starts to talk about certain things, he reveals very quickly he really doesn't know how a lot of this stuff works. Even his own engineering at his companies. He doesn't understand basic sci-fi concepts. You'll see constantly him like reading a science fiction book where he misses the entire point, had no idea what the book was about. So I don't think he's unskilled. I think he's opportunistically really gifted at exploiting media attention in this age. And he's really gifted at using the money he lucked into at PayPal to build something larger, which does take a type of skill, but I'm not going to say that's a super genius engineer.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me that like, he's also great at kicking things down the road. I feel like shamelessly saying 6 months till this, 6 months till that. We're going to do this crazy thing. Oh, now look over here. And this is where I think our media is particularly weak. Is that someone can do that forever, right? We have a president who can.
I was going to say that sounds very familiar.
I mean, like, because like I can tell you this right now. I don't know if you're listening to this 2 weeks ago, listening to it 4 weeks from now. We are almost at peace in Iran. Like that is a fact. For 12 weeks, we've been at war with Iran. There's also been a ceasefire. And we've been almost at peace with them. And it's just like we're almost there for the agreement to be signed, there's any number of these things. And I feel like the press just has like the sense of like there's no history. It's an ahistorical press.
It's awful. I was reading through, just because I did a newsletter post on this week, and I was reading through just the generalized press coverage of the IPO, and I was reading long Reuters articles, and I was reading New York Times articles, and there's no mention that he is, an overt white supremacist. There's no mention of like the fact that he was like inspiring racist riots in, overseas this week. There's no mention of like his long history of vaporware. It's you're right. It's like a historical void where they're just, because they're not
the business press. Like this is one of the things that's what I was actually trying to get at when I said it. Hold on a second, Sean. Is that this guy like cancels a whole bunch of legal contracts? Well, like it's going to take 3 years to get through the courts while he tap dances, but it's going to catch up. I have to believe that. All the people he fired illegally, if not in San Francisco, then in Europe, like where they have actual laws that they sometimes enforce. Like he does all of this stuff that is like, it's going to come back to haunt him. And there's this idea that like, that there's no penalty to be paid by him for doing that. He just breaks the law whenever he wants to and assumes he's going to get away with it. Eventually that catches up with a person, I feel like. Sean?
Yeah, the legacy media, traditional media has always been terrible as it relates to historical context, especially when it comes to like foreign policy and things of that nature. But I felt like the business press used to be a lot more honest than the regular press because business people have to live in the real world. I'm not so sure that is the case any longer. And in any case, the way these billionaires are buying all these outlets, this whole notion of, the liberal media, that's like, that's laughable. Nobody even says that anymore, that I hear of. And so I just think that Elon has done a terrific job at building up this image. But I will say that You remember kind of like the good old days, like when I was younger, you never even really knew who billionaires were or who ran companies. They were always sort of these shadowy people in the backgrounds or whatever.
Like Jack Welch and no one else.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
you think
now,
they're in a car company or GM, or
yeah,
GE,
it's
that's it.
now all, especially these tech bros, they love media attention. And in Elon's case, I think, it has really hurt him, though. I mean, certainly we saw like around when he was super active with Doge and what that meant for Tesla and all that kind of stuff. And so, as opposed to 10 years ago when he could sort of get away with, oh, he's this sort of mysterious weird dude that's a tech genius. Now he's been out there so long and has talked so much that I think for a lot of people they realize, you know what, this dude's he's not a genius.
Well, I do think there's this question about the addressable market when you do factor in the fact that like millions of people are aware that their children or loved ones have died because of U.S. government cuts to USAID and those things. Just because we don't know about them in the United States doesn't mean they're not out there, and those people are going to have a chip on their shoulder for a long time about Elon Musk. And some of them are going to be freaking terrorists. It drives me crazy when like we ignore all of that sort of impact of like just the Doge thing. I don't want to go into it too much, but like the damage that he did to the United States branding and the damage he did to people's lives and the way people don't get over that, just like it's gonna hang over us for a long time. We got to wrap up.
Just to say nothing of gutting really our scientific foundation. I mean,
it's been great for Canada and Europe.
In research, in science and research in this country is horrifying, and will take generations to repair. Should we, get past this, get around the corner on this stuff, it will take generations to repair.
Yeah. I think Trumpism has really allowed a lot of those tech guys to kind of be the worst possible version of themselves. They see it as like a green light to be just unholy bastards. And I think eventually, I don't know what it looks like, but I think eventually that ends and we have a sort of renaissance of some kind back towards something that vaguely resembles like foundational dignity. And I don't think he's going to weather that transition very well down the road.
No, I don't. And I'll tell you, when I look at SpaceX and what's going on, Starship, they're saying there's going to be flying missions by the end of this year. That is hard to believe. I don't know when the V3 Starlink is going to be up there, but I cannot imagine that Starship is doing multiple missions by the end of the year. They're talking about launching 60 V3 Starlink satellites when it does. No way. No. Maybe in 2035 with like Starship like 15 or something like that. But like in terms of making predictions, I think that the SpaceX stock is doing what we thought it would do. It's popping early. It's going to stay up. It's going to come down maybe a little bit. It's going to go back up when the index funds have to buy a bunch of it, and then it's going to come down. And as people get a better sense of SpaceX, I'm trying to decide if I should be buying Rocket Lab or not right now, because a bunch of morons ditched their Rocket Lab stocks. And I got to think that the legitimate companies that aren't run, by smoke and mirrors, in addition to good engineering, who just kind of ignore the smoke and mirrors, those are going to be the better ones. So anyway, like I just feel like in terms of predictions, like it's a time bomb. It's hurting the entire United States. It's hurting the entire world in terms of like when you talk about the USAID programs and things like that. It is such a mess. And I do feel like there's a part of me that hopes that it is going to lead to a significant market break, because if it doesn't, it's just going to get worse. And I don't want to see it get worse than this in terms of the theft of the people at the top from the people in the middle and the people at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't encourage like an economic reckoning. I'm not saying I want it to happen, but I think Americans need some very firsthand understanding of their own choices in a way that's a little more concrete to them. And I think it's coming.
Yeah, I don't look forward to it at all. But I do think it has to happen. It's one of those things that like pull the Band-Aid off. So
yeah.
We are going to finish this show off with a discussion with Jeff Gavlinski and some of the things that are going well. I'm going to run off and do a costume change real quick. Don't think I pre-recorded it or something like that. It's just I'm just going to do a quick costume change because I just saw Spam-A-Lot, which is awesome. I mean, if you just want to feel good and forget about all this stuff we've been talking about, when Spam-A-Lot comes through, hop to it, because that was a fun show out in the theater world. So anything else you guys want to sign off with before we bring in Jeff?
No.
All right.
Just appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. All right, Jordan, hit the switches. Let's bring in Jeff. And now we have a special guest who's been on before, a special guest who I'm not going to say promised, but said he would ship my son a whole bunch of really cool fountain pens from his event and then never did. But I don't hold that against him because I've known Jeff for so long. Jeff Gavlinski, and I didn't tell him I was going to do that, so I could just hit you with it live. Jeff Gavlinski, the CEO of Mountain Connect. Welcome back to the show.
I'm not sure I should be here after that one.
Oh, yeah, because you didn't send me a few pens.
I know. Well, I promised I would. I need to be a man who keeps his promises. I completely forgot about that. I still have them, by the way.
Yeah, they're great. I love those fountain pens. I
could make another empty promise.
Or you could tell me I could pick them up in person.
Yeah, you could pick them up in person. Yeah.
Where am I going to see you next, Jeff? Where might I encounter you?
Probably if you come to Mountain Connect, that's my next place I'm traveling away from home. So,
all right. So today we're going to be talking about Mountain Connect, and we've done this before. We've previewed a conference, but when I say that, I feel like if you're listening to this and you're like, you haven't listened to Jeff before and you haven't attended Mountain Connect, you don't know what we're talking about, because Jeff is always trying to do interesting things. We're going to talk in just a second. We're going to get to one of the most interesting things he did last year that I think really engaged the audience and is trying to cut through just the BS that's out there. And I say BS, and if you don't want to hear us not say the full extended version of that, then you might want to skip this part. But Mountain Connect is a special event, is in Denver. When is it this year, Jeff?
It is August 10th through the 12th at the Sheraton Downtown Denver Hotel.
And it used to be up in the mountains, but you got tired of people passing out and having medical issues. So you brought it down to Denver, which has bigger hotels and bigger parking lots.
Wow. And more room. We ran out of space.
Yeah, exactly. You can only get so many people into those areas. But last year you had on stage Angela Seifer. She just recently wrote on LinkedIn about her experience there, because it's not your average conference. You gave her a sign that has adult language on it, and on one side it said bullshit, and on the other side I don't really care what it said. But what was that event all about?
Well, it was a way to demonstrate that we're not afraid to talk about touchy topics in the industry. So effectively, I gave all the panelists, and including Angela, a sign that said, on one side it said agree, on the other side it said bullshit. And then I would read about a touchy topic in the industry. I would ask one of the panelists to comment on it, and then when that person was done, I'd have all the panelists vote on it. And what ended up happening was most of the audience then got engaged and started shouting out their own votes. So this year, I'm going to flip the script a bit, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with this session. So it's going to be the last general session of the conference, and we're going to give the signs this time to the audience as well, wrapped around a happy hour.
I love it.
Yeah, so we're trying to have fun with some of these touchy topics, but we're trying to raise them because I think we don't talk about them enough.
Right. This is participatory democracy. This is giving the conference an organic ability to weave and move around, to talk about different issues, and to make sure, if you have someone up there, that they're not going to be just skating by. I mean, I'll give you an example. You had at the beginning of Beat-ish, you had Drew Clark interview Alan Davidson, and I felt like Drew didn't just ask him what questions to ask 10 minutes before the event, but Drew came up there and had some really good questions, some really good feedback, and held his feet to the fire in ways that you don't expect at a conference like this, where, for instance, I've been to an event in which former FCC chair Jessica Rosenworcel was there and very clearly could not handle any independent questions and only had softballs lobbed at her that she proceeded to ignore and say whatever she wanted to say. It was painful. So we don't see that at your events, which I just am so thankful for.
Yeah, well, just as another good example, last year I interviewed the chief of staff for NTIA, and I started out before the conference. We had a meeting, and this is how it started for me. I said to her that I was tempted to send NTIA gift baskets. And she got a little confused and said, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Well, because you've extended the life of my conference with the June 6th policy notice update." And so that sort of started the dialogue. Probably not a traditional way to start a dialogue with somebody in that position, but when we got to the conference, I held out 2 questions that she wasn't expecting, and they were not softballs, but gracefully she answered them.
Yeah. No, that's what we need. I mean, we live in a society in which we're supposed to be able to ask hard questions of people who are public servants and have won elections and things like that. So Jeff, what else might people just what's the brief overview of you have different tracks this year? I mean, historically, your conference was known for being having innovative topics around fiber optics, around wireless, around co-ops, munis, the big companies. You've highlighted whatever is interesting in the industry. You don't kind of have like a one-track mind, but what are some of the highlights this year?
Well, let me first talk about the conference itself, because a lot of things are changing, and I'll talk about content at a very high level, but I'll still talk about it. So 2026 is less about adding more content and more about creating outcomes for people. So people don't need another event with endless panels, or they don't need conversations. Well, they do need conversations that help them move their projects forward. And every major change that we're doing this year was designed around action and connection. So, as you may or may not know, we've led BEAD conversations and all events the last 4 years or so. And so now I think the industry must answer the question of what comes next. So in my mind, this is really a focus around the ISP, so deployment, operations, future demand, certainly AI and emerging applications, sustainable business models, and better long-term infrastructure decisions. And so this is really, for me, it's content evolution.
Okay. So I'm glad to hear it's not just AI.
It's not. It's not. It'd be tempting because everyone else is doing it, but I always think that we always get ahead of ourselves, and so we really need to talk about the underlying infrastructure supporting whether it's AI or quantum. If we don't address those problems, we're still going to be in the same boat we've always been in, which is reactive.
I get the sense that you are trying to get more internet service providers to be attending, and really trying to make sure that they're getting a lot out of it if they are coming from that world.
Yep. So this year, one of the things that we're doing that's brand new is a hosted buyer program. And it exists this year because I believe great meetings shouldn't happen by accident. So in this program, we are bringing buyers and builders together intentionally. So the hosted buyers are ISPs actively planning, building, and buying. And then the hosted buyer sponsors are companies helping make those projects successful. And they have to have a national footprint. So through this program, we are providing structured introductions, qualified and curated conversations, and what I would like to think is better use of their time. So effectively, I'm underwriting the cost of attending the conference for qualified ISPs.
All right. And they can find out more about that at mountainconnect.org.
mountainconnect.org, and right on the homepage there's a button you can click on the hosted buyer program, and right now we are at there's a lot of diversity in this program. We are at over $1 billion in project opportunity. That includes fiber, hybrid fiber, and of course a little bit of wireless as well. We have funding sources such as BEAD, state and local grant funding. There's still some CAF stuff out there, private expansion and private equity. So traditional ISPs, co-ops, we're going to have a couple cities as well who are expanding their existing networks. So it's a real diverse pool of ISPs from tier 1 through tier 3. We have one of the largest ISPs in the U.S. Who's applied and been accepted to the program, which was a little bit of a surprise, but I think that says something about what we're trying to do.
Well, you know how I feel about merging and conglomerates and things like that. Which foreign set of companies owns Mountain Connect and tells you what to do?
None. The
Right,
only
it's a
one.
leading
No,
question.
yeah, I understand. I was going to say my wife. She has a lot of influence on what I do. But other than that, nobody tells me what to do. And I think that's one of the great things about being independent. For those that don't know, we're the last independently owned broadband conference left in the U.S. And, I'm trying to protect that as we grow. And, for me, this means that we have always been technology agnostic. We can have, as we discussed earlier, honest conversations, and we're willing to host difficult discussions. And we're primarily focused on the tier 3 and below ecosystem, and are certainly open to disruption and emerging ideas and solutions. So that's what makes us a bit different.
Yeah. Now, if we could just get you out of August.
Well, this is I'm in a bit of a quandary here in Colorado. There's only 3 hotels I can have my conference at these days. One's a Sheraton. One is the Broadmoor, which would price a lot of people out, unfortunately, down in Colorado Springs. And then, oh boy, what is the large Marriott called again? The large Marriott property that Fiber Connect was just that one. I forget what they're called. It's out by the airport.
I'm not sure, but I think the correct answer is there is no bad time to come to Colorado.
Well, there isn't, but I know some people, it's vacation time for some people. And so that creates a bit of a quandary. So I'm just I want to acknowledge the fact that August may not be the best time, but it is our time. And we're going to make the most of it.
Yeah, I've loved the events. It's been a little bit of a gap for me, unfortunately, as I've become more reclusive. But I'm very tempted to come pick up some pens.
Well, and listen, that bullshit session is made just for you.
No, I love that idea. And I really like the idea. I mean, I like knowing the crowd. Like, I met Matt Larson there, not that we met on email where we yelled at each other, and I was borderline uncivil to him, in that I was sometimes reasonable to him in my communications, and then got to know each other better through Mountain Connect. I met a lot of great people through Mountain Connect who I got to know better. So I have a very high endorsement for this. I strongly encourage people to make it out there.
Yeah, I think one of the other areas I'd like to talk about that's going to be different this year is networking. So I have redesigned this conference so that networking becomes part of the experience and not something that happens in between sessions. So what does that mean? So this year I've got a completely new construct for my exhibit hall. It's a linear layout, so I call it the Main Street. With food anchored on both ends. We have networking lounges on either side of the Main Street. And the point of the Main Street is, you recall from my early days, we had all the exhibitors in the hallway. So every time you left a room, room, it created a different vibe. And I think
it was very hard to go to a telephone meeting because you'd run into 3 people you wanted to talk to as you were trying to get out of their conference.
Right. And so I'm trying to recreate that as much as I can this year. Everything is within about 30 steps or so from the Main Street. Food, content, the general session ballroom, etc. All very accessible. We are replacing some of. I hope you'll like this next one, but we're acquiescing a bit of our agenda content to focus on roundtables. So these are tables of 10, so 9 people plus a facilitator, talking about 21 industry topics that'll be spread out 3 times during the conference to give everyone an opportunity to go. But it's a chance to lend an additional voice to more people at the conference. It's also another way to create strategic networking opportunities as you get 45 minutes to an hour to sit at a table and talk to like-minded people who are interested or passionate about the same topic you are. And of course, we have a hosted buyer lounge, we have a wellness lounge, and last but not least, I am utilizing AI matchmaking this year for all attendees, which means when you download our app, you'll be asked as you're creating your profile to answer interest-based questions. Right before the conference begins, you go in the app and it'll say, based on your interests, you should meet this list of people. And if you chose what's cool about it is if you chose more than one interest, you can actually filter down. Say you chose 3, you could filter down to 1 and refine the list even more. But it's a way for us to connect people. And I'm even going to do something with food this year to connect people. I'm going to leave it as a surprise, but I will say that on the menu this year, you're going to find seasonal, locally sourced food on the agenda. So we're going to do something fun with food this year to create a memory for people and a connection.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you, and then I know that in the past you've embraced Doug Adams, who helps you out quite a bit. And so, I don't want to leave him totally out of this. The two of you always have interesting ideas to surprise people with.
Yeah, I love having Doug as part of the team, but I should clarify, none of these ideas are his. They're all mine, as you would expect. Not one idea is his. Not one. I'm kidding. Doug. Love Doug, but none of the ideas are his. So anyways.
So people should check out mountainconnect.org, August 10th, that's August 10th through the 12th, and in Denver. And I'll just say, Denver, if you've not been there, it's amazing. There's no bad time to go. And but you probably won't get snow in August. So there's that.
Yeah, well, one thing that has changed in Denver this year is they finished the 16th Street Mall construction. It's been going on for 3 years. And so that whole area has been cleaned up. And as well, I don't know if you've been to my event in a while, but the Sheridan sits right on the end of the 16th Street Mall. So that's all been cleaned up as well. So
excellent.
And I'll tell you one thing, and I've kind of hinted at this during our conversation, but like, what is the one thing that is different this year? I believe we're shifting away from just delivering information and unstructured networking to creating outcomes. So, content matters, but we're investing just as heavily into who people meet, how they connect, and what happens when they leave. I think that's probably more important than anything.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. And looking forward to this event.
If you come out, I'll bring pens.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unbuffered podcast. We have transcripts for this and other episodes available at ilsr.org/podcast. While you're there, check out our other podcasts from ILSR, including Building Local Power, Local Energy Rules, and the Composting for Community podcast. Email us at podcast@communitynets.org with your ideas for the show. Follow us on Blue Sky. Our handle is @CommunityNets. You can catch the latest research from all of our initiatives by subscribing to our monthly newsletter at ilsr.org. While you're there, please take a moment to donate. Your support in any amount helps keep us going. Unbuffered is produced by Christopher Mitchell with editing provided by me, Jordan Pittman. Until next time, thanks for listening.